Good evening, everybody. It is December 17th, 7:30 p.m., and this is the December public meeting of the ANC 5D's Zoning and Development Committee. We have one item on the agenda tonight, and that is BZA case. Oh, I should have had this off onto my tongue. This is for the BZA case. Zachary, what's the BZA case?
20359.
Yeah, 20359.
20359.
Yeah, proposed development for a multifamily unit at at 1301 West Virginia Ave Northeast, at the corner of Neal and West Virginia. And before we start, we can just, if folks want to go around and I'll introduce myself. My name is Kevin Horgan. I was a neighbor volunteer and co-chair of the committee. And I'm just going to go down the list alphabetically here. Sandra Albury, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Lottie Albury's daughter. I'm actually in Philadelphia.
Hey, Sandra. And next to the list is now Keisha.
Keisha Shropshire. I am the ANC Commissioner for Single Member District 5D02. Also the co-chair with Kevin on the Zoning and Development Committee.
Stacy?
I'm Stacy Carbone. I am a zoning committee member for 5D01 and live on West Virginia Avenue, so close to the project.
And we've got, people are moving around. If we got Matt or Zach, either one of you.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Matt.
Good evening, guys. My name is Matt Medvine. I am one of the owners. My brother and I own 1301 West Virginia Avenue.
Good evening. My name is Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney, and I am representing Matt and this project.
Okay. And is that everybody? Okay. All right. So you guys were here at the November zoning committee meeting. You presented your project, and you then were just you presented to the Greater ANC last Tuesday, and you received your first community feedback. And my understanding is you've taken into account, and you have some news and some changes that you'd like to discuss. So take it away.
Perfect. I guess can I share my screen?
I hope so. If you don't, I will change it I will fix it so you can. But see what happens.
It says I host disabled participants.
I think I have to promote you to a co-host, so let me go do that.
I promise not to abuse the responsibility.
Co-host.
All right. Oh, wow, give me a lot of screen. All right. So, can everyone see my screen?
Still black. It started screen sharing. Oh, now we see it.
Yeah.
All right. So as you guys know, last time we spoke, we had originally looked to pursue a 5-unit option so that we could incorporate an affordable unit into the mix. Based on feedback from the ANC meeting that we had, what was it, 2 weeks ago at this point, and talking to a number of other neighbors, as well as speaking with some of the officials in the BZA and the Office of Planning, we have decided to switch gears and I guess fully focus on just a 3-unit mix in lieu of the 5-unit mix. The massing is more or less the same. I'll touch on some of that in a minute, but if you can look at the rendering that we have here, you can see that we've basically gone and taken some of the comments where we know some of the community members said that they liked the design from 1501 West Virginia. So we have taken that and similarly incorporated a dormer style roof at the top for the roof line. I don't believe we're going to be, if you can see my mouse, there's a section here that shows like a little wing wall.
Mhm.
From my understanding, and don't hold me to it, I'll double check, but I think that's just a rendering issue. I don't think that's actually going to be built there. So it should just be it'll be ending, you know, like it'll be a corner like this. So it'll be a clean finish. The rest of the massing of the building has more or less remained the same. The other major change was we are now no longer going to be pursuing relief for the rear 2.5 feet beyond the 10-foot that is by right. And we are no longer looking for relief for the penthouse. We're just going to go with some skylights or operable roof hatches rather that are by right, and we don't need relief for that as well. So just quickly backtracking in case some of you guys weren't there for the initial ANC meetings that we've been to before. This is the current house. My brother's living here. This is the back of the property. This is Neal Street along here, taken from the alley. This is currently what is built on the lot. And then this is what we will be building, all of which is by right. In speaking with the neighbors, and I believe my brother, I don't know if he made it over there today or not. Sandra, if you'll know better than I, because I haven't spoken to my brother yet, but he was supposed to be going over there to talk to your mother and your brother. But just to show him this, because we actually just finished that this plan set this morning. But basically, we're getting rid of the additional 2.5 feet that was a point of concern, and we are now just keeping it to the 10 feet that is by right. And so this is the plan. We'll basically be having 2 vertical units sitting on top of 1 cellar level unit below for a total of 3 units. So the only relief that we'll be looking for this project now is just the 3rd unit, which shouldn't be an issue because we have well over the 900 square feet that are required. These are just demo plans of the existing structure. As you guys can see, I'll rotate it so it's a little easier just for a point of reference. But this will be the cellar level. You'll come in the front. Again, these are preliminary plans. So we're still kind of shaking out the final layout for the inside. You know, the total building massing is set, but you know, we might tweak the inside setup a little bit. But we'd be having a 2-bedroom. I'd love to try and make this 3. We haven't figured out how to do that efficiently yet, but for now we're looking at a 2-bedroom unit in the basement. And then the first floor and subsequent 2nd and 3rd floors will actually be split in half and divided between 2 units. So you'll come in on the 1st floor and you'll have at the rear, there'll be 1 unit, and at the front, you'll have 1 unit. And then you'll have stairs that go up, you know, each unit to the bedroom levels. So level 2, you'll come up and there'll be a master for the 1st unit and then the master for the 2nd unit. And then on the 3rd floor, you'll have additional bedrooms on the third floor for the front unit and then the back unit, culminating with the roof deck at the top for each. From a facade standpoint, we extended the brick so that it'll be continuous all along West Virginia Avenue. So it should be harmonious with the rest of the houses on the block. When you set back this portion, which is just going to be a side addition, we haven't determined yet whether this will be hardy plank or hardy panel. I believe 1301, I think it's hardy plank. We could go either way. It doesn't, you know, make a huge difference to us. And then the dormer style roof will be a metal panel roof, or standing seam metal roof rather, excuse me. And you can see it from the side, how it's pitched back. And then at the back, the rear addition, that'll also have the fiber cement siding. And then this is the sun study. And this is kind of just the current, I forget what they call it. Again, I'm not super great with the touchy-feely pretty stuff, but I think they call this a palette board or something in that realm of things, in terms of just ideas of what they've thrown out there for potential finished colors and design. So with that, I guess I open it up to you guys for any questions, feedback, thoughts. We're hoping that with these adjustments, we've kind of taken a culmination of a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from the various neighbors, and come up with a product that everyone is happy with.
I'll leave it to the neighbors to speak up first. Next door.
Well, I thought my other sisters were on, but maybe not. One of our biggest concerns with the property, especially going up, how that kind of blocks mom in with her house. I mean, she gets right now a lot of sun. She has view, she has cross ventilation. Now with the top portion, we thought maybe the house was being more or less moved over closer to like Neal Street versus going up, which you have like a whole new top there. I don't know if that's what they call the pop-up, but then mom's whole yard is being shaded now. There's nothing there. She has a garden. I mean, I have no problems with people coming into the neighborhood, building, it's investment. I think it's great. But we're really concerned. My mom's 98. She sits on her porch. She's in the backyard. And at this point, it's like I don't understand the shading. How much sunlight is she going to get as a result of the top portion of the construction? I don't think she's going to get much. Her house is going to be very cold because she gets the sunlight. So, I mean, that helps with heating. But at this point, it's like she's pretty much in the dark. She comes out the back. She's going to look at a wall right across the alley. There's going to be a wall straight down from when she comes out of her house. And I mean, that's a concern. It's a concern with even, the house itself is really old. We don't know kind of what the damage may be with the drilling and stuff. And I'm quite sure maybe you guys have that kind of a situation taken care of. I don't know. And I know she just cannot stay there. We're going to have to pull her out of the house while work is being done next door. I've been there. I mean, I'm in Philadelphia, and we had the same kind of a construction going on behind where I live. It was horrendous, day in and day out, with the noise, the vibration, the shaking. And I know there's not anything you can do about that with your construction. But the biggest thing is not devaluing mom's property, because that's our home. Once she's gone, that's still going to be the family house. If we decide to rent or we decide to sell it, what value do we have with a house that has nothing but shading in the back? So I don't know. It just seems to cut off. We do have pictures that we can show what it looks like. I was not ready to talk about any of this tonight because my sisters and I seem to be more rushed. We didn't hear about this until late November. So it's us trying to get together to see what can we do to help mom out at this point. And at the same time, construction is going to go on regardless. I mean, that's just the way it is. And also trying to keep the neighborhood looking the way our neighborhood should look. I mean, we're single family units and not condo multi-families. But change comes, it comes. But at the same time, how do we end up with a situation that is a win-win for everybody? You know, I know you guys have something here that's an investment. Same for us as well. And like I said, mom's been there for over 70 years. And we just want to make sure that she's not being taken advantage of, that her property is still going to be pretty much intact. And of course, we're doing work on her house as well. So that's my feeling. We still have some other things that we need to get together, and we'll be presenting that. I do believe that's on the 23rd of this month. But my sisters haven't seen this. I mean, it's something that we do need to look at and come to some kind of agreement as to, you know, like what we can do. I mean, like I said, basically to save my mom. I mean, that is really important to us.
Okay, San, I'm here too. Can you hear me?
Oh,
This is Brenda.
I can hear you, Brenda.
Okay. I'd like to also add that my concern is that the design of this proposed project is very modern, very contemporary versus the style of the homes that are already in the neighborhood. I think if they were to modify the style and give it more character and more personality than just working with rectangles and squares. And to also, I have a problem with the statement, well, we have the right to go back 10 feet. We're gonna shorten it from 12.5 to 10 feet. But even at 10 feet going straight out from the back of the house means that our mother will have to face a brick wall or a cement wall with no windows in it every time she looks out her window or every time she comes out her back door. And she's gonna have to walk more than half the distance of her yard before she can see light. And of course, but Sandra's already indicated she won't be able to get any breezes that are blowing from that direction because this house is going to block everything. So I'm just wondering if the designers couldn't keep the back shorter than 10 feet and go further out the side towards Neal Street. With all that land, you have to have enough square footage to design whatever you want, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, I don't know. But I'm not so much in favor of that 3rd level going up either, because that is what's gonna cause my mom's house to not get much sun at all.
So this is Kevin. I mean, if it goes up, the only part that's being shaded on your mom's house is her roof. I mean, I just want to clarify, if the BZA applicant was to just put 2 units in this house, it could be the exact, DCRA would allow a house of this height and with a 10-foot extension and with this lot occupancy. You know, a 10-foot, we typically have developers asking for 15, 20-foot additions. You know, 10-foot, and I mean, I do think it's an interesting suggestion to see, would the developer prefer a wider unit than going back? But I will say, I think getting a 10-foot addition is pretty nice. Generally, most adjoining homeowners don't want any windows. I mean, it would be an at-risk window. They generally don't want any windows because that would actually create a privacy concern for your mom.
Exactly.
10 feet, it's long, but it's not that long. And there's neighbors in the, you know, I just want to say, like, in general, I think Matt and his team have addressed a lot of the concerns. The skylights they've done for the walk-up, instead of having penthouses, that was done recently. I forget the BZA case, but it's like 1261, 1263 Owen Place. I forget. They did that, and it does cost, you know, those walk-up skylights are expensive, but they're really nice, and they prevent that ugly box thing appearing on the roof. And I actually appreciate that they've added that feature. You often see these row houses, and there'll be this big box penthouse that basically is just there to put a door so they can walk up onto the roof. I have to give them credit for having those walk-up skylights. I wish more of the developers would do that. That way you don't just have all this extra little, it looks like a little elevator building on top of a row house. You're like, what is that? And that's all it's doing is just housing a door so people can walk up. But yeah, no, I just want you to understand, Sandra and Brenda, like there is a lot that people are allowed to do, on their lots, and they can always go back 10 feet, and they can build up to 60%, and they can go up to 35 feet as a matter of right. So anyway, let me go back into listening mode.
No, it's okay.
Oh, this is Keisha.
Okay.
Oh. Sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge that there is that Sandra, and I think I can't, hold on, let's see. Brenda just mentioned that they were wondering, were there any considerations to go wider as opposed to higher? And also wanted to just say that, there on the Sun study, I think, Matt, on the Sun study, I think you presented that. I think I would like to see that a little bit more closely, because I think you breezed past it, but it'd be interesting to see what the Sun study resulted in.
Sure. So this is the winter solstice. So this would be when the rear of the yard and the sun is the lowest. So you would have the most impact. This would be around this time of year. So if you look at the top row, the bottom row is the existing. So you'll see that there's already some impact in the backyard here. But essentially by building that third floor, it just increased the shadow cast down the street at the different times of day, depending on the direction. So this is the winter solstice. And then on the next page is the summer solstice, at which point the sun's much higher. So as you can see, the shadow cast is considerably less.
Okay, can you please maybe help me understand the shadow? Is that on your side, or is that on my mom's side?
So what you're going to be caring about is this and this. So this is what's currently there. And this is what would be there before. So really the only new shadow during the summer, and again, this is the summer solstice. The only new shadow that would be cast on your mom's property after this is built would be this section here, which is just
okay. And what actually is that section? Is that coming from out of her back door?
This is your backyard. Yeah, sorry. This is the backyard here. This is the alley.
You see, the problem that occurs is that the houses on West Virginia Avenue are not positioned where they get either the east sun and the west sun, or the south sun, because the avenues are angled, the houses are also angled, so the sun comes in obliquely. Okay, so they don't get a whole lot of sun or direct sun anyway. But this, how many feet? What is this, the one on the top? Is that the winter solstice you said, or the summer solstice?
This is the summer solstice.
At the top, okay. So how many feet does that little gray box actually take up in her yard?
I don't have the exact dimension, but this little box is, I guess, is probably a 10-foot by 4-foot box. But it would be at the back half of her yard.
Mm-hmm. The back half of her yard, so, oh gosh.
The carport?
Is that shading her carport as well?
I do not, let me check Google Earth to see.
If it's the back portion, it would.
But so the summer solstice, so for this half of the year, you really wouldn't get impacted that much in terms of the difference between how you're being impacted now. It's the winter months that you would have the impact the most, because the sun's lower. So you would go from having what is currently, I guess, the additional would be, instead of that one square box before, it's going to be this square box now. So it's just taking up basically the back half in terms of shading.
Oh, by the way, where are the HVAC systems going now? Are they still in the yard?
2 of them are on the roof. 1 of them is in the yard.
And what place in the yard?
Currently, it is shown in the back corner over here.
I don't understand where that is. Is that on the shared fence between the 2 houses? Or is it on the fence on the Neal Street side?
There's no fence on the Neal Street side, so it's up against, it's towards the shared fence.
How far away
And
from the shared fence is it?
it's currently 3, I would imagine 3 feet. You need to have clearances around those units in order to have sufficient air circulation.
Okay, but I'm trying to picture, is it going to be, I would assume it's going to be beyond the 10-foot extension, correct?
Yes, it's going to be behind the addition of the house.
Sorry?
That is correct. The addition of the house will be 10 feet.
Right, so then this HVAC unit is beyond that.
Correct.
And it's going to be on the side next to my mother's yard, on that shared fence side. So she's
Correct.
going to have to listen to an HVAC unit turn off and on all summer long.
There's currently, I believe, an HVAC unit already in that area, so it shouldn't be any different than what she hears now.
Where is this HVAC unit that you said is in that
Because it's
current
just,
area?
we have 1 unit for that house that is, oh, sorry, you're right. There's no central compressor, but there's window units in the back. So it should sound more
No,
or less.
window units are a little bit different from an HVAC unit. I know that. So that's what I'm asking about. I know how noisy they can be. I mean, once they start running, they're okay, but you hear them turning on and off all the time.
Yeah, but that's why we put 2 of the 3, the ones that don't have to be on the ground floor, we put them on the roof, just to accommodate mitigating any of the additional unnecessary noise.
Okay, and the third one won't fit?
We can't put it on the roof because it has to be accessible to the owners of the unit. And you don't have, the basement unit will not have access to the roof.
Oh, okay.
Matt, would it be possible? There was a BZA case they just presented to the BZA yesterday. Keisha was there at 1638 Trinidad Ave Northeast, and to mitigate the neighbors' noise concerns, they moved, I think it was 2 HVAC, and they kind of moved them into the middle of their yard. Is that something that would be possible?
Yeah, they removed it. They removed it from away from the property line.
Yeah, so they had 2 HVAC condensers. Instead of having them on the property line, they kind of just moved them in towards the middle. Is that something that would be compatible with how the back of your building looks like? If that would address the neighbors' concerns? Because I mean, I share them as well. Like if someone's got typically they're, is that a window well right there?
That should be fine. I mean, so currently, like we said, it's about 3 feet off the fence. We could move it to be more towards the center here. That's not a problem. Yeah, somewhere over here.
Be better.
That's better.
That's better.
And then addressing some of the comments that were made between Sandra and Brenda. So first, we went as far as we could to Neal Street before we hit the setback requirements. So we pursued that as much as we could. And we still are grossly under our lot occupancy. I believe we're going to be at like 55. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're building things out, typically people do whatever they can to hit that maximum. So we're still at about 55, if I'm not mistaken, but we've gone as far towards Neal as we're allowed to go, which is why at that point we went up, addressing the concerns about damage and disturbance during the construction phase. The contractors that we use, and we can give you a history or contacts of our previous neighbors for any of our past projects, but we're very engaged. Part of it is we typically, well, my brother or I, because a lot of the times we live in these buildings before we renovate them. So we get to know the neighbors, we get to know the neighborhood, and it really ensures that we have more vested interest in the neighbors and making sure that they're taken care of. We're very strict about the construction noise timelines that we have to fit. It's 7 in the morning to, I believe it's 5:30 or 6 at night, but usually we'll get the contractors depending on the activity. If it's something loud, like if it was jackhammering or anything that was exceptionally noisy, just to be mindful of the neighbors, we typically will push that back to not let that start until 8:30. From a damage standpoint, we sign agreements with all of the neighbors. It's part of the notification form that we're acknowledging responsibility to, at the end of every day, inspecting the site and inspecting neighbors while we're building up. We'll be able to see onto the roof and making sure that there's nothing that's fallen on the roof and that there's no trash or anything that's gotten there or in the yard or generally leaving our site messy that would otherwise be a hazard to any of the neighbors walking around. And if anything does happen, we commit to immediately taking action to fix it and making sure that it gets addressed right away. Unfortunately, I'd love to tell you that, we're perfect and that nothing has ever happened, but it's construction. And, unfortunately, there's a huge element of human that's part of the construction process, and errors are made sometimes. But again, like I said, we can give you contacts to almost pretty much all of our neighbors that we've had for past projects. And they can attest to the moment anything is discovered that there's an issue, they text us, we answer right away, and we have guys there depending on what time of day. I mean, I've even driven over to a place at 9 o'clock at night just to check something out and make sure it gets fixed right away. I mean, one time we had a roof deck that got clogged, their drain got clogged and started building up water. They got up almost a foot of water up there, which then started to spill into the neighbor's house. And they noticed it at about 8:30 at night. I got over there about 8:45, and I was out there in the middle of the night just drilling holes in the floor of that deck, just destroying the inside of the house, but it alleviated the water and it stopped anything from getting into the neighbor's house. So, I can assure you that we aren't going to be absentee developers. We're very much there in contact, and we have a strong history of successful projects with neighbor cooperation and minding neighbors and their property.
Okay.
And similar, building off of that, again, we understand the concerns that you guys have. And that's the main reason why we've gone back and spent the additional time and money and everything to tinker with this design and try and create something that we thought would reflect a bit more of your concerns and addressing them. By doing what we've done here with this new design, we've shrunk the footprint, which, every square foot counts in this, but we've shrunk it by that 2.5 feet that we were asking for. So we're sticking to just the boilerplate of what we're allowed to do without any relief. And the third floor addition that we put on, we readjusted the design of it based on the feedback that we had gotten from the community. You had mentioned you thought it still looked a little too contemporary. So we're open to other suggestions or designs that you might be looking for. We can see if we can, possibly entertain that and look into incorporating that. We'd be happy to look at anything. if you want to show us or send us some examples of something that you think might better fit the character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I like that suggestion that way, because you could walk around the neighborhood and, I'm speaking now to the neighbors, and just take pictures of things that you like, and then maybe offline. Do you guys all have one another's email addresses, contact information?
No.
No.
Matt, did you want me to provide your email address to the neighbors?
Sure, be happy
That
to.
way you guys can like offline, just, the goal is to find something where everyone is really happy.
Okay, and again, I'd like to kind of reiterate also, the main thing is, from a BZA standpoint, the only relief at this point that we're looking for is for the 3 units. So it has nothing to do with the building itself.
Well, so I'm glad to see the electric meter box is on the house. I've seen a few projects in the neighborhood where, to save a few dollars, the meters are sitting out in the middle of the yard for some reason. It just looks like an eyesore. I'm glad to see they're fixed to the house.
Yep, no, we've tried to carefully take in any little details we can just to make it more, on top of aesthetically pleasing, just also more of a convenient design for everyone involved.
Matt, do you plan for like a roll-up gate at the back, or will it be open parking pads from the alley? What's the plan?
It would just be open.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions, comments?
I don't.
Do you think we ought to plan to get on the full ANC agenda in January to go back over this? I assume we should.
I think I always encourage more community engagement, and I think Commissioner Shropshire is probably the best person to. Keisha, what are your thoughts upon getting on the voting agenda for the January meeting?
I think that we just heard about the project, so I will no longer be a commissioner in January, but there will be a new line of commissioners on board, and they may have additional questions. They may or may not be ready to vote on this, given the information. If there are still some outstanding concerns from the community, they may indeed, what we've done in the past, I know that you have a hearing scheduled, is it January the 27th, I believe?
Correct.
Yep.
So if there are some outstanding concerns from the community, and if there are concerns or questions from the commission, could be a request to delay that hearing if they feel that they haven't been met. But I think the best thing also would be to make sure that the commission has a copy of if you're going to submit these revised plans, that they be submitted to the BZA record, and make sure that the commission has copies of these or have access to it, by the time that they meet in January, before they meet actually, because it's going to be a new set of commissioners and they won't be sworn in until the first week in January. So, my recommendation, I'm thinking that if there are still some dialogue going back and forth between the adjacent neighbor and also some other community concerns, there may be a little slight delay because of the transition of the commission.
Would it be possible for you guys to share these with them so they could start looking? At this point, this is the 3rd meeting that we've had, and we really appreciate because we've been waiting for this BZA hearing for over 6 months at this point. So we'd really rather not have to delay it. At this point, we feel we definitely done a substantial amount of community outreach, and as I touched on in our last ANC meeting, my brother's collected a number of letters of support for just the project as a whole, and it seems so far to date the main point of concern from the neighborhood has really just been Sandra and Brenda and their family, and understandably so, given that they are just the immediate neighbors. So is there any way you can share this plan with the incoming commissioners so they can look at it and be a bit more up to speed on where we are, so we don't have to worry about pushing this back?
Yeah, we sorry, Matt. Go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry, I was done. I was just asking.
That was me. Sorry, that was me, Keisha. Now go up, but you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we definitely will share, a summary of what was covered, and this hearing. I mean, our meeting today is available. We record it, but the thing is that these are. I mean, I'm not trying to say that the commission that is coming in could not be brought up to speed, but they can't do any work until they're sworn in. And we will share everything, but it's very important that you update revised plans on the case record, because we wouldn't be able to, even if they were to say, okay, you can come to our meeting in January and we are prepared to vote on this, we would be voting on the previous plans that you've submitted. And there's also now a party of opposition, so they would want to hear how some things were resolved, and that's what I don't want to invite you to a meeting. I can't invite you because it'll be a new commission, right? But I don't want you to come to one more meeting and then have to wait because the meeting is recommended to be delayed. So I don't want to waste your time either. So I think the best thing to do, if you're proposing these new designs, is to submit them into the case record so we have everything in the record and we could consider it.
Okay, and I guess I would have one question, to Sandra and Brenda. So going back to Keisha's point, we did note that you guys had filed for party status for opposition to the project. In looking at the grounds for it, it's all based on the one point of relief that we were looking for, which was that 2.5 feet beyond the 10 feet that's by right. So by eliminating this and all of the other relief except the 3 units, which again, that has nothing to do with the building itself. Would you guys still be looking to pose as opposition to the 3rd unit relief? Because we wouldn't be doing what you guys were.
Well, I'm actually not at liberty to answer that question tonight. I would have to, this is Brenda speaking. I would have to sit down and talk to my sisters and my brother to see how everybody thinks and feels about this. I mean, I just heard about the change to your plan tonight. So, and then we only found out about this proposed project at the end of November. So to hear you say you've been waiting for this BZA hearing for 6 months really puts us behind the 8 ball. So with all due respect, I would prefer not to be rushed to give you an answer to your question tonight.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think we can, simply because we do have other family members that we have to consider. And what we can do is take your new proposed plans at this point, sit down with the family to make sure that everyone's on the same page and come up with an agreement on that. Because I can't do that without having the rest of the family there. And also my mom has to understand what's going on as well.
I want. I agree with the neighbor.
Sorry.
I agree with the neighbor should have an opportunity just to sleep on this. And they also, and I wouldn't ask you, Matt, to submit these to the BZA case record tomorrow, because we also just asked the neighbors to walk around the neighborhood and look and take some pictures of things that if they wanted to you know, and we should at least give them a week to do that. At next week, I think they do have a hearing to consider party status. But my understanding from that, that's not where you go up there and the BZA does not have the tolerance for you to get up there and start issuing your case for against. It's really just, do you deserve party status? All they're going to want to know is they're the next door neighbor, and they will probably be awarded immediately party status. But I do not think at next week's meeting they're going to want to even hear about the design. It's more about, should they be awarded party status for the future hearing. I would be shocked if the BZA would even entertain discussions on the project size or anything like that. That's my experience. It's just they have filed for party status, and because they're an adjoining neighbor, they'll get it. And then really the goal is to convince them prior to the next ANC meeting. I think that this is like the best win-win situation. I mean, I personally hope that there is a vote on the project at the ANC meeting, but I'm a volunteer. I have no idea what but I can help forward your plans. If you send these to me, I can push them out to I have the personal email addresses for all the incoming commissioners. We will post this video online. We'll try to get as much outreach so that they are educated. At the end of the day, though, I won't speak for them. They're their own individuals, and we can try to do our best to educate them. And I think really what will make a difference is if the adjoining family, if Sandra and Benita and Brenda and their mom feel like this is a great solution, generally speaking, when the adjoining neighbors are happy, the ANC will support the project. And I think you have done a lot of really great things here compared to the previous proposal. I think but I wouldn't ask the neighbors to, you're asking them to absorb a lot in a very short period of time.
This is Keisha again. I just think it's, I mean, there have been numerous cases, and I know, Matt, that you're saying you've been waiting, but I'm just curious, what was the date that the letter went out for notifying the residents? I don't have that pulled up right
I
now.
don't know for sure either. Zach, do you know? I believe it was November.
Yeah, it was recent. I mean, because no one is, I think that because they were notified in November, and then it takes time to really digest and for everything to be presented. And it's now December, and there's the holidays. So I think there's a lot to be expected before January. And I know, I mean, I'm just speaking on behalf of the ANC commissioners, and I know that Kevin said that we can update them. We will give them, our summaries and share information with them. But we can't anticipate what additional questions they might have, but we're trying to engage them in the process early anyway. So I think that we should allow the adjacent neighbors and any other neighbors that may have concerns to digest these and to actually have a chance to provide you with feedback, adequate feedback.
And we have no problem with that. I guess the one question I would have would be regarding the number of questions and the concerns that the neighbor or the community might have, or the incoming commissioners might have regarding the project. Given that the only relief you're now looking for is those 3 units, it's, again, we are welcome and open to incorporating the feedback of the community regarding the aesthetic and the architectural elements of the building, as you guys can see, because we've now gone through 3 iterations of this, and we'll continue to take those. And I definitely encourage Kevin's suggestion of Brenda or Sandra having you guys or your brother walk through the neighborhood and take pictures, or look online and send us pictures of some design that you think would better fit the neighborhood. And we'll definitely be looking at that and seeing how we can incorporate that to make it more amenable to you guys. But the core of the ANC that from what we're looking for from the ANC is strictly for the third unit. It has nothing to do with the building itself from a construction, design, or any other standpoint of the building itself. It's literally just about that third unit, for which we need to have 900 square feet per unit, which would be a total of 2,700 square feet in the lot. And we have well over 3,000 square feet. So we're well over what we need. We could have 4 actually, but that's the only relief that we're looking for. So at what point though, I'm just curious as to what point we can vote on the conversation surrounding the third unit rather than the architectural element of the building. Because again, we're open to continuing to take feedback on that, but at a certain point, we don't want to have to continually delay the project to continue to tinker with the architectural elements of it after we've already done 3 iterations.
I think they need time to digest this, Matt. Hearing the silence, I don't think there's a response right now.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess we'll just look forward to that January meeting. And if you could please, Kevin, forward on the plan set to the incoming commissioners and give them my information. And if they have any questions or anything that they'd like, or conversations they'd like to have leading up to that meeting, I'm happy to speak whenever they're available.
Gotcha. And I just saw your email with them. Okay, I will send these out. I'll do it tomorrow, Matt, and I will, we'll try to move quickly. Obviously we know time is money, and I hope you and the adjoining neighbors can come to a win-win real quickly, and that way we can you can enter that January with a high confidence you'll get a vote from the ANC. Again, we have all new commissioners, and at some point they are their own council.
Right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. So did anyone else, it's just about 8:30. Did anyone have any further comments before we wrap up tonight's meeting?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending. As always, appreciate you, Matt and Zach, coming and presenting for the community. We appreciate the design changes you've already done, and we appreciate you remaining open-minded to further changes that the adjoining family has suggested. One of the things we definitely will do is I want to talk about what things, aside from the zoning perspective, or what things during construction can we do to mitigate the impact to our neighbor, who's most likely the longest, continuous neighbor in Trinidad. She's lived here for over 70 years. So like there might be something where maybe we limit construction hours on Saturday mornings until a more reasonable time, or something like this. There's zoning things, but can we get like a silt? I've seen some of the neighbors, when construction goes up, they put more dust barriers between to help control the dust during construction. And we can get there eventually. To me, it's about making sure the adjoining homeowners, it's always going to be a noisy process, but how do we minimize that so the families who've been here a long time feel respected. All right, everybody, have a good evening. Merry Christmas. I'll probably speak with some of you between now and then, but hope you all have a good holidays, and be safe.
All right.
Thank you, Kevin. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
You all.